With me is a very special guest today, the Foreign Minister of Slovenia. So, welcome to WION. My first question to you is an obvious question. How do you see the relationship between India and your country?
Well, for Slovenia, India is a very interesting and very welcome partner for the cooperation. I think India is the third most important market in this region if we count it as bilateral trade. And I see many common positions that we can take together, especially with, let's say, new developments of the digitalization, artificial intelligence. And I look forward for enhance this cooperation in future.
Looking forward for enhancing the cooperation. Next month, we'll see the Indian Prime Minister traveling to Portugal for the India-EU summit. What are the key expectations from India and from the EU grouping when it comes to the entire partnership between the two, between India and the European Union as a region, and also on FTA as well, sir? This is something that has been talked about. India has been politically talking about it, saying that we do back about the entire FTA, but it looks like there has been certain hesitations, especially when it comes to bureaucracy in the European Union.
Well, in a way, India is becoming more and more important, and even your foreign policy is growing its importance and interest in this global currents of, let's say, political engagement and as well economical engagement. And in that sense, the both entities, European Union and India, they are sharing their values. They are built on, let's say, rule of law, and they are coming from the, in a way, same democratical hemisphere of the global world. So in that sense, one should only complement the enhanced cooperation. And I see this initiative from the Portuguese presidency, let's say, very good in a way to let's improve our bilateral exchange, be it from the economical point of view or be it from the political point of view. Slovenia as well thinks that European Union should enhance this cooperation. And due to the Slovenian geostrategical position, we have Port Koper. Slovenia could be very good gate for Indian, let's say, enterprises, Indian economy in order to access European hinterland. So in that sense, Slovenia is very interested in enhancing cooperation as well on the EU level.
Mm-hmm. And about the FTA, sir, India-EU FTA, what's your position?
You mean for direct investment? Let's say
for the free trade agreement, sir. For the free trade agreement, something that has been talked about much.
Well, we would like to bring this issue back high on the agenda of the European Union. I mean, now we see this Indo Pacific region that recently agreed on free trade agreement among several states of the Asian and Indo countries where India did not participate in this initiative. I think it's very important that we proceed with this issue between European Union and India. And I see this like one of the main topics on the agenda we would like to as well stress from this global perspective of the EU alignment.
Mm-hmm. So Slovenia is a country which is known for its natural beauty. Indian tourists before the pandemic, they traveled a lot. And of course, a pandemic has hit the travel industry. But how would you pitch your country as a hub for tourism in Europe, especially for Indian tourists?
Well, thank you for complimenting Slovenia. I can confirm that Slovenia can offer on a very small piece of land everything what you expect, from perfect culinary to excellent landscape. So in that sense, I think this voice of the beauties of Slovenia spread around quite quickly. In that sense, I would suggest, better on the highest possible level engagement from our tourist agency, and as well to enhance our cooperation. And of course, direct air flight would definitely enhance availability of Slovenian tourist market for Indian tourists.
Now coming to the COVID pandemic, this is something that has completely changed how we work, how we talk. What kind of cooperation both countries are having, and is there any specific cooperation when it comes to the vaccines, given the fact that India has its own outreach program when it comes to giving vaccines to the world?
Well, we can exchange information, and in European Union, the countries exchange it on a daily basis. And if there is some good consequences of pandemic, it's the one that shows how important is enhanced cooperation among member states and as well with other countries. So, there are best practices in every country around the globe, and if we can exchange this, how to tackle the crisis, this is a good way how to proceed with the let's say mix of measures that can lower the volume of spread of the virus. So now we are heading toward this second phase. It's the vaccination period, and in that sense, as it is a global problem, until we will globally vaccinate the population, we still will have problem with COVID. So we have to cooperate in that sense. And as India has a vast production capacity for the vaccines, and as well European Union is trying to build up the capacities for producing on our own. I think there are a vast space for cooperating in that sense. As I said, we are all in the same boat, and we should go in the same direction in that sense.
So you will be the president of the council in a few months' time. How do you see your presidency in terms of relationship with India, and of course the entire taking a joint strategy against the COVID pandemic?
Well, we hope that we'll be the first presidency in a row that will be able to hold a meeting in person. So rather in person than via audio video connection, because it gives you more pristine relation with interlocutors, and as well it's much easier to agree on certain important details in person than via this virtual connection. So we hope that we'll be able to perform it in a full-fledged presidency. And in that sense, if we consider the global importance, we see one of the most important issues to improve or to enhance cooperation with our first ally, United States. Last year, United States summit is dated in 2014. So almost 7 years, no discussion on the highest possible level regarding that. And as well as that the free trade agreement between European Union and United States was kind of stopped in this way somewhere in 2016. And I guess we have to kick off again this process. The same is relation with India. We see it as a very important way in order to, let's say, synchronize our view on the bilateral exchange via the standards or, like other requirements of the internal market of both entities. So we have to do on it. But Slovenia, as a country that is coming from the Central Europe, we as well want to concentrate ourselves on the Central Europe and on the countries of the Western Balkans. But there will be two main issues during our presidency we would like to tackle. One is the resilient Europe on, let's say, health sector, on a health field. So we want to give a strategic debate on managing the health crisis and, connecting all subsystems in order to have a good crisis management if there is another crisis arise. And the second field where we want to have a very strategic discussion is a cybersecurity. So we see that data is next oil, and European Union has to be prepared on safeguarding the let's say data, digital life of European Union.
So now coming to China. China is the big elephant in the room. We saw what happened when it comes to India-China relationship, the standoff. How does Slovenia sees China's relationship with Europe, with your country, China as a rising power? China, of course, when it comes to India, there is not a very positive sentiment. But what is your relationship with China? How do you see China as a force?
Well, I would rather say that China is already seasoned power, not rising power. I mean, it's rising as well, but as well, India is rising. So these big markets are increasing their influence in the globe, and we have to take this into consideration. If we look from the Slovenian side, we have very unbalanced bilateral trade with China. So we much more import than export. And from my perspective, in let's say, not so distant future, we want to balance this bilateral trade, because I think between the partners there should be more or less the same exchange. And Slovenia has something to offer, high-edge technology to even subcontracting of some, let's say, industry. So in that sense, Slovenia is taking active part in, let's say, seeing the possibility to enhance our bilateral trade. If we look from the European perspective, so the last days of German presidency, so at the end of 2020, there was an institutional agreement about comprehensive agreement on investment with China. And during Portuguese, especially during Slovenian presidency, there will be a very lively debate as well in the European Parliament regarding this possible agreement. And as well, there are some, let's say, hiccups in this process that definitely will influence on outcome of this democratical discussion within European institution. With these hiccups, I mean the lately introduced or announced sanction against several members of European Parliament or several representatives of member states that took decision on a sanction against some Chinese individuals that were connected to breaches of the rule of law, I mean, human rights issues.
So my last question to you is on the Indo Pacific vision. This is something that India has completely backed. Washington, which is your ally, has also backed. There has been the Quad meeting as well, the virtual meeting. There is a possibility of a physical meeting as well between these four countries. So how do you view the Indo Pacific vision? Would you be keen to partner or perhaps come out with Indo Pacific guidelines in near future, as some countries in Western Europe has?
Well, I would say Indo-Pacific rediscover. There are a lot of focus now on Indo-Pacific. As well, your foreign minister, Mr. Jaishankar, in his book, Indian Way, stressing a lot of attention to the rediscovering Indo-Pacific and the importance in Indo-Pacific. We know where was the first visit of US State Secretary, Mr. Blinken, in the region. So in that sense, definitely this is a proof of the importance of the region. And as I said, incoming presidency, we think that European Union has to be very actively engaged in the discussion with Indo-Pacific countries.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to WION, sir, extensively about India-Slovenia relationship, what to expect, the COVID cooperation, and of course, Indo Pacific. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for your invitation.